Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our session for today. We are open for anti-racism, otherwise known as OFAR, and we are presenting on leveraging open education to support anti-racism in the classroom with a special focus on our 4 years in review. We'd also like to give a special thanks to the Hewlett Foundation and to College of the Canyons for all of their support. We are a part of the Community College Consortium for OER. The vision is to ensure equitable access to high quality education for all learners through openly licensed resources and open pedagogies that empower their success. Our mission is to cultivate and engage a diverse network of educators, practitioners, and leaders who champion open ed, fostering equitable and inclusive teaching and learning experiences. And we'll do some quick introductions. My name is Laura Dunn, and I am a co-director of OFAR, as well as director of assessment and writing programs at SCU. James and Joy, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Sure. Thanks, Laura. Hi, James Galapagos-Clag. I'm with College of the Canyons, where I'm an academic dean, and I'm Laura's co-director of Open for Anti-Racism. And I'm going to call an audible here and say we have a special guest in our audience, Una Daly, who was the founding co-director of Open for Anti-Racism. So we're very grateful for Una for all of her efforts and work and labor over the years and inspiration in starting OFAR.
And I'm Joy Shoemate. I'm also at College of the Canyons, where I'm the director of online education there. And for OFAR, I helped to co-develop and co-facilitate the course. And actually, I have to acknowledge my dear friend, our dear friend, Kim Gruey, who also co-developed the OFAR course and co-facilitates it with me. So thank you, Kim, for being here.
Is Kim in the room? I can't see.
Yes.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for coming. Okay. All right. And we would love for you to introduce yourself. If you want to go ahead and drop in the chat your name, where you're from, if you work for a college or institution, we'd love to hear where, or just where in the world you're located. Today, after our introductions, we will do a short OFAR program overview just to give some of you who aren't familiar with our program some background. And then we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into what is anti-racist pedagogy and how does it operate in the classroom. And we'll do some highlights of our year 4 and our cumulative research over the impacts of the program in the last 4 years. And then it's going to be your turn to engage some questions, and maybe we have some answers, maybe we don't. We'll have a discussion, and then we'll spend just a few moments looking at some what happens next in the next couple of years. So without further ado, do we have any people Saskatoon, Germany? My goodness, welcome. Hi, Kaylin. Vermont in the house, Oregon in the house, awesome. Michigan in the house, Michigan State, very cool. Okay, what we hope you'll walk away with is a framework for defining anti-racist pedagogy, how open education can support anti-racist pedagogy, and knowledge of some key outcomes for our program. All right. And I don't think this needs a lot of review, but we all remember what happened in the spring, summer of 2020 with the advent of with the murder of George Floyd. A lot of colleges were struggling with how to be anti-racist, and faculty really wanted to make teaching anti-racist, but didn't have the right information tools, and they didn't have a safe space to learn about it. Open Ed does offer these tools. OER and particularly open education can be used in a way that can make materials and teaching practices anti-racist. So OFAR was started by Una here, sitting in the dark, to help with this initiative and to provide community colleges across California with the training that they were looking for. What is anti-racist pedagogy? So anti-racist pedagogy is a critical pedagogy that encourages race consciousness amongst faculty and students, where faculty and students are invited to acknowledge their identity and social position. And it also helps people recognize implicit biases within themselves. It also encourages people to think systemically and structurally about racism in a way that exposes systemic or structural racism within our institutions. It encourages students and faculty to examine the history of their particular discipline and ask questions like how is knowledge defined and accepted, and who gets to have a voice in the discipline, or who is the author of the discipline itself. It also includes voices and perspectives from many people and different groups, many of whom are marginalized, and invites students to contribute their own perspectives and experiences through co-creation of knowledge. So a broad overview of OFAR's program goals and activities can be seen on this slide. Basically, we explore how to use OER and open pedagogy with our faculty participants so that they can make their instructional materials and teachings more anti-racist. In the fall, our participants engage a facilitated online course on Canvas where they learn about anti-racist pedagogy, OER, and open pedagogy. At the end of the fall term, they develop and implement an action plan in collaboration with their students. In the spring, we move into the implementation phase, and our participants engage in peer connections through monthly webinars, coaching sessions, and admin support. And all of this leads up to a team showcase at the end of the spring where faculty share with us what they've done, how they've implemented their learning in their classroom. And all of this information is documented via surveys, interviews, and student outcomes. So we collect research at the end of every year, which we will share with you before we leave today.
Great. Thank you, Laura, for kind of setting the stage, explaining our program origins, and also I think we all felt it was important that we share with the group so that we all have a kind of a similar understanding of the perspective in which we are pursuing this project and trying to make actionable changes in the classroom by making sure we all have that shared understanding of anti-racist pedagogy. So when it comes to actually facilitating the course and supporting faculty who are moving through the OFAR program, you'll see on the screen here a couple of questions that we hope faculty and we encourage our participants to really think through and evaluate as they approach their own teaching and learning, and maybe opportunities for making modifications to their teaching and learning so that their classrooms can become anti-racist spaces. So just as Laura was sharing sort of our working definition of anti-racist pedagogy, we encourage and challenge our participants to think about, well, who is writing OER? We know that open education can be leveraged as a tool, an anti-racist tool. And so we need to also consider, well, whose voice is included, whose contributions are included in the text, even in OER. Whose perspectives or maybe contributions to the field are left out. And that's where open gives us the opportunity to include those voices. So, you know, again, kind of even maybe shifting some of our own thoughts about open. Yes, you're providing this text or these materials that are available, but are we just creating a free and accessible version of a document or a resource that maybe perpetuates racism, heteronormative values? Like what are we actually providing to students? So we want to encourage and challenge our participants to think really hard about who's writing it and are there opportunities to bring more voices in. And that really speaks to that second point about in what ways can open allow us to amplify, the contributions of others to the field? Again, co-creation with students. Is there an opportunity to even bring students' lived experiences into the classroom and into the resources in which you are creating, and really the experience in which our students are learning? Next slide, please, Laura. Okay, great. And then we also want to encourage and challenge our participants to think through how their teaching practices might change or evolve. I think all of us are here because we believe in the value of open, and making that shift might require, and usually does require, some modifications to the ways in which your teaching practices may change, especially with the particular lens or eye on making the teaching and learning anti-racist in and of itself. Our participants come with varying experience and knowledge of open education. Some are very experienced with OER, but have never heard of open pedagogy. Some don't know what any of it is, and others, so we have to acknowledge the fact that the teaching practices of our participants may significantly evolve for some if they're kind of walking through the door and just now learning about open, and others, those practices, they might have already evolved many of their teaching practices, but there are still opportunities to leverage open for anti-racism there. And then finally, I think this is a really important point, which is, how can we involve students? How can students become active participants in co-creating their knowledge? How can you as an instructor demonstrate that your students really belong to this field, that they are a part of the field in which they're learning from you? So that can be sharing their lived experiences, or, like we've said before, that co-creation of knowledge, which is really important. Next slide, please. Thank you. And of course, with that, that's not easy work by any means. And there have been some challenges that our own participants have faced. And when we open it up for a discussion, I'm sure there might be other ideas that you have, or maybe have experienced, or concerns you have about challenges. This is just a list of a few that our participants have either expressed, or that we have observed in supporting faculty through this process. So pushback, we want to do our best to try to support our faculty participants who are moving through this program and who are engaging in this work, because they may be, and some have been, faced with pushback. What do you do when your department is not supportive, or if you live and work in a community that doesn't accept or support anti-racist teaching practices as necessary or valid? So we've evolved the program over time to try to add in more support systems for our faculty participants, not only through the webinars, but through coaching, and also ensuring that there's administrative support from the campus, so that these faculty colleagues do have support, but also, are prepared when maybe students offer some pushback to what it is that they're engaging in the classroom. Again, rethinking teaching practices, it can be really challenging to try to envision a different way of doing something. We all obviously have been educated and are now educators, and sometimes it's challenging to undo maybe the ways in which we were taught, and that can be scary. It can require a lot of self-reflection, which is that next point, but it also requires a bit of bravery and vulnerability to do something new and different and try it in a different way. So the program is really built around trying to offer support and encouragement to take those steps and be willing to give something a try, knowing that, even if the first way in which you implement maybe a new activity or assignment, you hope it goes well, but if it doesn't, there's opportunities for improvement, and that's a good thing, and that means we're growing and learning as lifelong learners ourselves. Self-reflection is another one that, again, can be, equally challenging, to really be critical of ourselves, our own views, those biases we may bring into the classroom, and work to undo those. As I think many of us in this Zoom room know, time and sustainability are always a challenge, especially as it relates to open education broadly and OER. So those have been, what a lot of our participants have shared, continue to be a challenge for them. They want to maybe rethink their teaching practices and implement some major and incredible changes in their classroom, and I don't have the time to do it. So how do we make the space and the time for really making those actionable changes? And of course, sustainability. The work must keep going. We want to keep improving our work. We never fully arrive. So sustaining that work again requires time and can be challenging. And those are at least what have been expressed to us and what we have observed as just a quick list of some of the challenges that our participants who are doing this really good and hard work have expressed.
Okay, thank you, Joy, and thank you, Laura. So, I want to share a few slides, a few highlights of the research that we've gathered over the past 4 years of the program, and one of the I think we're all probably aware that one of the concerns about OER in adopting OER or introducing OER is, sure, you're removing the cost barrier for students, but is it really contributing to student learning? And similarly, one might ask about this program. Sure, it sounds nice, makes for a great press release that the institution, the college is doing something about anti-racism, but what impact does it have on the classroom when our faculty participants complete the program and make changes to their teaching? Well, we've got a very thorough research program built around OFAR. We conduct pre-surveys and post-surveys of the participants. We survey the sponsoring administrators of the college teams. We survey the students. We interview a subset of our participants, and we look at student outcomes over a 3-year trajectory. So we're trying to understand what the impact is, trying to document what the impact is of our faculty participants completing the program. So here on this first slide, you see responses from students who were surveyed in cohort 4, our 4th year last year. And we see here that 98% of the students responded that they felt there were opportunities in the classes in which their faculty were implementing changes, felt that there were opportunity to provide their own perspectives and experiences. 99% agreed that the instructor helped students develop a sense of community. 98% agreed that class discussions were valuable in helping students appreciate different perspectives, and 88% agreed that they felt more engaged than in other classes. So certainly the student experience is richer and more engaged. That's terrific. What about the next slide, Laura? Let's take a look at that. Student outcomes, sort of more, much more data, objective outcomes here. Our researchers looked at student outcomes in classes taught by our faculty participants for 3 years prior to their participation in the program, and then the semester, the term in which they were participating in the program, and then a term after our participants completed the program. So really, it's a 4-year trajectory. And what our researchers found is that success rates of students, so students who complete classes with a grade of C or better, success rates for African American, Black and African American students in OFAR classes was 64% compared to their college of 59.5% and statewide of 59.5%. So that's almost 8.5% increase for student outcomes in the OFAR classes. Then let's look at the Hispanic or Latinx students in OFAR classes, 73.6% success rate compared to their colleges as a whole, almost 67%, and statewide, 67.5%. That's an increase of 9.5%, 9.5% difference for students who are in OFAR classes. And then overall, if we look at all the different population groups here to put them all together, OFAR students or students in OFAR classes had a 76% success rate, and you'll see that college-wide, just over 70%, statewide, just over 70%, and that's an 8.5% difference, or 8.5% increase in student outcomes. So we're really, really, really happy about that. That it's, excuse me, that implementing OFAR changes in your class is not just a nice headline, a pretty story. It really is having a dramatic, significant impact on student success. Next slide, please, Laura. Also, across 4 cohorts here, just some more snapshots of the data that we have. 89% of our faculty participants said that their participation in the program improved their anti-racist teaching practices. 75% of students surveyed said that content in their courses tapped into their cultural and racial identity to make learning more meaningful. And we see that borne out with the previous slide. 100% of the administrators, the sponsoring administrators, said that they were supporting their faculty teams to participate in the program. And then my favorite data point is the 14% increase in faculty confidence. We asked the participants pre and post, how confident do you feel in discussing topics of race and racism with your students? Not surprisingly, or very satisfactorily, prior to the program, our participants feel less confident, and after the program, they feel more confident. So on average, they feel 14% feel more confident after completing the program. We're really thrilled about that, because that's confidence, that's that internal drive, internal commitment to do something, or the ability to keep on doing something. So we're really, really happy about that. Next slide, please. So we are going to turn over to you now. And I see some really positive responses in the chat. Very happy about that. Thank you very much. We're also very happy, but we want to hear from you, really. So we've got some questions up here. We've got a small enough group that be warned, I can call on you by name. I know a few of you in the audience, so be warned. Hopefully you'll unmute or contribute in the chat. So first off, how can anti-racism and OER apply in your work? Our proposition is that the tools of OER and open pedagogy can help us do anti-racist work in the classroom. Do you find this to be the case as well? Have you tried this? Is this going to inspire you to integrate your OER and open pedagogy work with anti-racism efforts at your institution or in your environment? Anyone want to address that? Feel free to unmute. Or is this such a new concept that you need a little bit of time to digest it? Heather, please. Great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks. I'm Heather Ross. I'm from the University of Saskatchewan. We actually are just finishing up the first year of a 2-year program. It's a faculty fellowship that combines, here it's EDI as opposed to DEI.
Sure.
EDI, indigenization, and open together. And so the first year of the fellowship, the 6 faculty members that are in it work on changes to their own course. And this could include open. It doesn't absolutely have to, but it does seem to be getting pulled in. The second year is about trying to bring change within their units. So working with other faculty members. And that is definitely something that I think is a barrier because of pushback, but also because people are just so tired and burned out and are overwhelmed with the amount of work that they already have. So that's a significant challenge to that. I am really curious to hear more details about the program that you have, because I could see us learning from that and improving the fellowship moving forward.
Great. Well, thank you, Heather. Thanks
you
very much. First of all, for colleagues here who are not aware of this, our our Canadian colleagues are miles, kilometers ahead of Americans in work on indigenization for sure. So thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, the fellowship sounds fantastic. Let's definitely connect afterwards, and we'd be happy to share with you more material about the program and see where there might be opportunities for cross inspiration. The I think the one of the good fortunes that we have in doing this work today is that we're working in California. Certainly, focusing on California community colleges. We have seen a number of institutions outside of California adopt and adapt the OFAR program to be used in different contexts, and in some situations, the wording has needed to be adapted to reflect the political sensitivities of different places around the country these days. Yeah. Let's see. What else do we have? Or Joy or Laura, you want to add anything?
Heather, I'm in the process of looking. We have some Canvas links of our course that we can share with you. So if you want some details on what the modules look like, what the lessons look like, and how they can be adapted for your school, I'll be able to get that up in just a couple of minutes. I just got to, oh, Liz is going to help us grab it. Cool. All right. Thanks, Liz.
Great. Thank you. I apologize for not having mentioned that straight away. The Canvas course, which is the primary initial learning experience for our participants that Joy and our friend Kim Gruy developed. Every year they polish, every year after they complete the course, they polish it and place it in Canvas Commons, openly licensed, of course. So lots of good stuff there. Great. And then I saw, I think it was in the chat, Kevin, you mentioned that your faculty who use OER have a strong interest in anti-racist work. I wonder if you could say a bit more about that. And then we have Manisha as well, has raised her hand. Kevin, anything you'd like to add about what you mentioned in the chat? Is there any formal integration of OER and anti-racist pedagogy, or is this a kernel of an idea that you have?
I think it's more of a recognition of the more individual work that a lot of our OER developers, the instructors who use OER, have. For instance, one of our sociology instructors developed an OER that connected U.S. Census data with the history of different kinds of racism in Oregon, things like internment camps and redlining and that sort of thing, and developed exercises for students to recognize how those kinds of historical trends impacted the development of their neighborhood. So that kind of like, personalizing that kind of history and recognizing that, how the past can impact your current circumstances, and that
Great.
kind of
Thank
thing.
you. Yeah, actually, that resonates with some of the projects that our OFAR participants have done, particularly our math faculty or statistics faculty who are participating. They've engaged in similar kinds of projects that having students apply statistical analysis to their environment.
Yeah. And so, yeah, my comment was more just kind of like, I know that there would be more interest in this kind of program. So amongst our faculty, I would need to kind of canvass them a bit more just to see what actual interest there would be. But when I saw this pop up, I was definitely interested.
Great. Well, check out the Canvas courses that are, or the OFAR courses that are in Canvas Commons, openly licensed, of course. Please pull from those as useful.
Thank you.
Manisha, please. Thanks for your patience.
I am so glad to be here. Listening to all of you is so, it's like it's more than inspiration to me. I want to share one. I'm a student with Athabasca University in the ED doctorate program. My topic is use of open education practices by sessional instructors. Um, so, uh, and I read one article just published, changing lives 2 hours at a time. It was so good to read. And sessional instructors is a good target audience to, for them, they'd be so much interested in learning about anti-racism because they are not just teaching to earn a paycheck. They put in so many hours of time because we believe in it. You believe um, that you're you're making an impact, that education matters, and especially reaching out to marginalized, vulnerable populations. I've also worked many years with Indigenous students, and um, I've always centered them and invited them to share their stories. And I have permission from one of them uh, who is an employee of Children's Services. So my current position, I'm a Government of Alberta employee right now. And I work with Indigenous Cultural Understanding Framework, which is part of Ministry of Children and Family Services. So the student I'm sharing works with this ministry too. And what the student mentioned story, is when an RCMP officer walked in her office, he said that this place smells like a reserve, and she was so offended. So, with anti-racism, respect, like, what it meant was that her house is not good, her office is not good, and you're just minimizing, you know and the word she was using again and again, because she was a student in my class, is respect. When we are working with anti-racism or Indigenous students, I find the word respect. What does the word respect mean in anti-racism? She felt she was not being respected. And in my current job with the government of Alberta, I think all the RCMP officers, I have seen there is a module about anti-racism. So I'm going to go and look at the your modules in Canvas, because it's not just in post-secondary education. I think it should also be part of work integrated learning. And this should be a mandatory competency, not just for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, that's RCMP police officers. Um, Thank you for hosting this fantastic session. I am so glad to learn from all of you. Kananaskamatin. Hi, hi, hi. Thank you.
Thank you so
Manisha,
much. Yeah.
please,
Um,
Laura.
yeah, I just wanted to I put it in the chat here, and I there it doesn't make any sense because of autocorrect, but in uh our last webinar was on Indigenous knowledge and OER, and it was led by Anne Marie Paikai, University of Hilo. And to what you're talking about, Manisha, about respect being a really big deal, that was something that came up a lot. And part of our discussion was on the 6 R's of Indigenous knowledge. And we will try to find that link for you and share it out if possible. I'm not sure if Liz, if you can kind of get into our YouTube and drop the link. The link to the Canvas course is also now up on the chat. If anybody wants to take a look at that, that's available. So anybody else have any questions? I'm also particularly interested in this last question here. What are your challenges for implementing anti-racism and OER in your school or whatever context you're in? I'm good. We really try to do our work from a place of problem solving and understanding that racism, discrimination, and inequity there are shades of difference between contexts. So always interested in hearing what that looks like for you all.
Yes, if you feel as though you're not in a position to explicitly integrate anti-racism into your open work, why is that? What is your context like? How can you do the work despite that? Oh, interesting, Manisha. That's a really interesting way of approaching things. Access, belonging, and community. Kim, please.
Although I've been embraced in California for sure, and I work a lot with California Community College faculty, my home base is Virginia, which is a very different political atmosphere than California. And I even put in the chat there, the DEI portal that went up, like basically report DEI, report out like a Red Scare type thing. So I just wanted to address that question because I remember Jamie Thomas, who's one of our wonderful colleagues, and she talked about you can do the work without like signposting that you're doing the work. Like I don't have to come in and say, hey, I'm doing some anti-racist pedagogy in my course design here today. I just don't say it. I just do it. And some of it's just common like sense almost for being sort of inclusive and welcoming, and sense of belonging is an okay thing to say, and we draw on that. So not signposting what you're doing, but still doing the good work. And that's what I've been doing in Virginia.
Yeah, it's Kim, I appreciate you sharing that. In some ways, it's even what you're doing or what many people are doing outside of a state like California is even more important, right? There are so many people doing similar work, not similar, but there are so many people doing good work in California, and the political and social structure is such in California that there's less friction. But in other places, it's a lot harder and a lot braver to do that work. So keeping an eye on the time, let's open it up for one last comment before we move forward. Anyone else want to share what you're doing in your context? And thanks for dropping some things in the chat there. That's great. We've all got some nice resources to be inspired by. Anyone else want to give us a final comment about what you're doing, how to merge open and anti-racism?
Okay, well, thanks for your comments and questions, everyone. I also really appreciate all the great resource sharing that's going on in the chat. Definitely going to download the chat and check all of those things out after we close today. So what comes next? So our 5th year is currently underway. We are in the kind of first third of our spring semester, and our participants across 8 schools are busily implementing their action plans and preparing for their end of the year showcase. They might not be preparing just yet. If you want to get involved or you're interested in getting involved, and it doesn't have to be to join our year 5 cohort right now, our cohorts are limited to the state of California, but we would be more than happy to receive your email and send you some correspondence. But if you do scan that QR code, we will send you out when the time comes, information on how to apply, what our institutional support looks like. You might get an occasional email on our research and student leadership. So please do get on our list. If you want to learn more about Open for Anti-Racism, scan the QR code to our landing page on the OE Global website, which will take you to various places, to our research, to some of our shared webinars, and all kinds of blog posts, all other types of good stuff. And coming up this week for CCC OER, it is March 4th today, so March 6th, EDI Community Pulse Check. How are you doing? March 7th, Doors 3, Advancing OER for All Through Practical Tools. March 20th is Casual Coffee Hour with the MIT Open Courseware and CCC OER. And March 25th, Defying Gravity or Flying Monkeys, a library panel about the challenges and opportunities of AI in OER. So lots of good stuff coming up. And please let us know how we did today by scanning this QR code. We always love to hear your opinion and your thoughts on how we can do better. And that is it. Thank you so much to everybody who is here today, Una and Kim and Manisha and Kevin and all of the other people who we haven't heard speak. And of course, Liz, Heather, our CCC OER director, and all of our staff at CCC OER who have supported us in this process. And thanks to my colleagues, Joy and James. All right, we do have a few
Please
more.
put that QR code back in the slide, please. I
Which
wasn't
one?
able to grab it, Laura,
Oh, which one?
to do the survey of how you did, because you did
Oh,
great, and I want to tell you that.
okay, all right. You know what I will do is I will actually put the link in the chat. I think that might be a little bit better for some people. So this link is going in the chat. All right.